I've been watching this so-called The Big Sick, and it's a very strange they made this into a comedy. I mean, it's very comedy. Like I mean, yeah, there are other parts that are, yeah, definitely, but the fact that it is a comedy when it deals with, infections and hospitals and is a bit something. Yeah, I like you know. The thing is, I think they went a bit too quickly. Like, half of the movie pretty much is just hospitals, which isn't very funny, but it is still intertwined with comedy, I suppose, somehow. But it's mostly drama, seems to me. They did go a bit too fast, though, at the beginning. He barely knew her, and then suddenly, somehow, changes his mind because of this illness. It's a bit too much, yeah, but still interesting, I suppose. Um, Yeah, one thing that's interesting, how her father furiously writes down all the names and all the different words. I, of course, just simply look them up. That's the benefit of not being at the cinema. I mean, you could be at the cinema and use your mobile phone still, but that's stupid, really. You'd be missing the film. You'd be annoying other people. Anyway, yeah. So I looked this up, and one specific thing, the theoretical illness she had, Staphylococcus aureus, and it's really strange. I mean, yeah, MRSA practically, which yeah is really, I didn't realize MRSA is specifically antibiotic resistant. Yeah, so you know, I had no idea that 20% to 30% of humans carry it. So presumably, like that it practically infects as soon as the immune system is down. As I said, though, it's a bit too much to take for a movie that begins so farcically and continues on as well in a way. You look who's dropped by and everything, and then yeah, it's a movie of extremes in a way. And I'm not entirely sure. I mean, what the comedy that there is sort of works, but you know, there's a lot of, yeah. There was one other movie it reminded me of, um, an Asian one though, that I currently forgot the name of. I also commented on though. Yeah, it's where for some reason Colonel Sanders from KFC has a prominent part. Or it's the cardboard box of him really has a prominent part. But yeah, but similarly though, yeah, the female there has an illness of some kind, but it's different in that she can talk and everything, but she thinks she is terminal there as well. I just don't know how they can do it with comedy though. I don't remember how they managed in that other movie. Don't think it was very comic though. Similarly, it's just it sort of ruins it. Just like he said at the end there, and try to do stand up, and suddenly just cut off and say, I couldn't do it because my girlfriend's in a coma and everything. Yeah, it's strange how the mother just suddenly jumped to his defense after seemingly rejecting him. That's certainly strange, a bit unexpected, a bit unrealistic, I suppose. But yet another extreme. I don't know how you could do that when you seemingly totally reject a person. Or you can suddenly totally jump into the. I suppose yeah, she was just taking it out because of it. She was frustrated. Personally, I'm not sure I'd react to it anger if a child is in a coma. It would be more sort of mixture of depression and anxiety, I suppose, and fear. But I don't know. I guess for some people it might be anger. The anger doesn't make much sense to me. Of course, it made sense in that specific context that was in, but not in terms of I mean, obviously she had all that anger due to her supposed daughter being in hospital and the state she was in. But yeah, I don't quite understand how anger can be the emotion of choice, not choice, I suppose, but I don't know. Maybe people can choose what they feel, but mostly it's more of a inherent instinctual thing, I suppose. I never personally never felt angry in such specific circumstances. Then again, admittedly, I was not in such. So yeah. Anyway, other than that, though, it's interesting. It's funny how I ended up watching this movie very soon after. In fact, literally just a couple of movies ago, I happened to watch Sleepwalk with Me, which is also about a stand-up comedian, and I don't think I knew that even for both. I didn't know it was about stand-up comedy. Before this, I had never actually. I don't think I've ever seen a movie about stand-up comedy. I've seen stand-up comedy, just not a movie of stand-up comedy of a stand-up comedian. And suddenly I've seen two in very much nearly successive. Yeah, literally. I've seen a weird movie called Mermaids in between. But other than that, two side by side movies about stand-up comedy, just slightly different though. In fact, very different. Sleepwalk with Me is more farcical, although still deals, I guess, with mm, sort of big topic, not as big as this, with the disease and everything. But sleepwalking can be dangerous, I suppose. But in situations, it's slightly reversed here and there. Um, Now, funnily enough, I think this might be slightly more funny in terms of the kind of comedy he does. I mean, I don't think he even tries in the other one. You know, he's documenting his very earlier ones where his jokes were weaker, I suppose, but they were seriously weak. Whereas here, ah, you know, some of the others have weak jokes there. Like I don't know what the point of that. Um, um, the person who said oh, I kept a diary and showed her picture every time. Like, what kind of stand-up comedy is that? Yeah, and at least this guy isn't a bartender like he was in Sleepwalk. When you, yeah, but hmm. So yeah, it's sort of interesting, but still a bit. Not bad. Apparently, I read. I think momentarily I read that it's based on a real life story. Need to read more about it, but if it is, then it is. I suppose that's what happens in real life, just random stuff. Because an illness doesn't decide, oh, this is when I should totally infect and disable you. Just before or after you've broken up with someone. Oh, let's do it here and there. No, you don't. They don't, do they? The illness doesn't. You don't get little bacterial cells saying, ah, now's our chance. Or maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they sense. Maybe that's it. They sense. I don't know. Maybe when you break up with someone, you're in a depressive state. Your immune system is in a depressive state. It's depressed. Literally, that's what it say. Yeah. I mean, okay, no, the depression normally refers to a mental state, but I think it might affect the immune system, possibly. Not entirely precisely sure, but I think it might. And so yeah, not so much that they saying, oh yeah, let's take our opportunity. No, more like, oh, here's an opening in the immune system, and there's an opening because the person doesn't care and just is simply regretting the decision to have wasted 5 months. She said. For 5 months, and apparently 5 months is just 1 hour in movie time. Didn't feel like 5 months, but yeah. And yeah, I finished it, and I just realized it's a rom-com. It's not quite a conventional rom-com, of course, nothing of the sort. Usually rom-coms are predictable. Now, I didn't quite read the synopsis, so I didn't know she was just going to fall. Okay, the title sort of gives it away, but I guess I thought it might be a metaphor as such. Um, Apparently, the company was called While You Were Comatose. Usually, companies that make movies uh, often are named the same as the movie title itself, unless it's, I guess, a company that produces lots of movies. Um, but yeah, I can see, I guess, why they didn't want to name it While You Were Comatose. Although it would be slightly more descriptive, I suppose. I have no idea what the hell Big Sick was supposed to refer to. It's just a weird thing. Could be anything, honestly. I mean, like Big Sick. Oh, okay. Well, is that like a big pharma or something? Like, some sort of industry that manufactures sick? I don't even want to know about that. If that was a reality, I swear. I don't know. I mean, there's everything in the world, I guess, but yeah. Corporation that manufactures sick, or would that be vomit? Oh, let's not even go there. Let's not even go there. It was a very strange movie. Very strange. Certainly more. It did go a bit more interesting than the other one, Sleepwalk with Me, which didn't delve too much into its issues. This, well, it sort of did, but still didn't. I mean, obviously medical issues specifically were skimmed still. What the doctors usually say to patients, I guess. They were still a bit technical at the beginning, but then mostly skimmed through them. The entire movie, anyway, isn't really mostly dedicated to those. Although interesting, I had never heard of Stuhl's disease before, so it's sort of interesting to know more about. There's a whole load of autoimmune diseases. It's incredible how much. From what I can get, from what I can gather, the doctors might have misdiagnosed her at the beginning because they thought there was an infection in the lungs. Unless, I mean, from what I've read, which isn't much, but from what I've read, and from what the doctor says at the end as well about miscommunication inside. So I'm assuming then the doctors may have misdiagnosed her at the beginning with this infection. They thought she might be infected, I'm assuming, because of the autoimmune reaction. Apparently, one way to prevent Still's disease, to prevent it from harming the person, is to block interleukin, which is a peptide, I believe, that is, I think, involved with, white blood cells, and it attacks, basically involved in all autoimmune conditions as well. Although also, I mean, should be normally involved in actual diseases. It's very useful for diseases, of course, it should be. Just not when they're invisible or when it's an overreaction, i.e., a cytokine storm, which I think is the issue. Anyway, yeah. So it's not a medical drama. It just touches thought just a bit, but it's mainly not. I mean, there is more comedy than there is drama, and it's quite hard to pull off comedy in such a situation. But somehow it works, like the little bits that he pulled off somehow work. I mean, certainly I thought the comedy was more comic than whatever that guy did in Sleepwalk with Me. Yeah, he was showing us how the comedy evolved, but it was seriously weak, especially at the beginning, and there was nothing at the end really. So pretty much this on the other hand, yeah. I mean, yeah, so he tried. I mean, so it's not like and at least we get. This is the point. We get actual comedy here. as opposed to the seriously weak usual rom-com fare. This isn't a conventional rom-com by any means, so at least it's sort of recognized. I mean, if it was just a normal rom-com, I would think, why on earth did it get an Oscar nomination, which apparently it did, and why on earth was it so well received and had such a box office success, because mainly the budget was so cheap. But yeah, anyway, because then you get something like Fat Greek Wedding, which was all incredibly successful. I mean, it's much older though, so I guess it's when people went to the cinema. I think much more, and I mean, sure, the difference between it and most other rom-coms is that it has a different culture, which is interesting. Most other rom-coms have absolutely nothing. That still doesn't prevent them, of course, from being successful in some way. Many rom-coms it is. Um, but otherwise, big fat Greek wedding is still a conventional rom-com by all means. I mean, it's about a wedding. It's in my opinion, it's boring, really. This has something else. This was interesting. But yeah, still, I mean, the fact that she spends most of the time in a coma is not no. It's certainly not usual rom-com fare, and the problem is that it's not comic either. There's just the fact that she spends all the time, and the fact that most of the movie is set in a hospital isn't comic, obviously, right? At least we found out that it's that somehow it it the condition was reversible and such. So yeah, great. But the problem is still that it's a huge movie, and most of it is still set in a hospital. So that's not very funny per se, but somehow he still manages to enliven it just a bit, somehow. I'm not sure how, but yeah, somehow it works. The interaction he had with her parents as well was interesting. Somehow that works as well. Uh, so yeah, I'm not sure how it works because it wouldn't normally work. You know? Half of it being set in a hospital would normally be comic, but somehow. I mean, if it was a more directly serious illness, like anything is. They mainly didn't know what it was, so it sort of it was still an unknown factor for most of the movie. But if it was known and it was more serious, then it would have been, I think, inappropriate to be comic. If if it was like something terminal or such, but I don't know. Somehow it still works. Maybe because we're dealing with an unknown factor, but